Hello, good afternoon everybody. My name's Lucy and I'm a creative artist working at St Christopher's, and welcome to another Art for All session. We normally have Art for All sessions on a Tuesday afternoon in the Anniversary Centre in St Christopher's Hospice, but we're now hosting Art for All sessions online. Today I've got an idea about how to write poetry at home, and we've talked a little bit in previous sessions about using newspapers to help you to write poetry, something that David Bowie did with his song lyrics. The idea I've got now is something that you could maybe use for creative writing, but you could also use it for poetry as well. And what you're going to need for this is a few books, so any kind of books from around your house, and you just need a stack of them. So I have these books. So I have, it doesn't matter what's inside the books, all we're going to be looking at is the spines. So I have Untold Stories by Alan Bennett, Black Swan Green by David Mitchell, The Inklings by Humphrey Carpenter, The Long, Long Life of Trees by Fiona Stafford, and Doorways by Becky Perriman. And they're all really interesting books, quite varied. Some fiction, some non-fiction, and they're on a real range of different topics. And yeah, a couple of books by women, a couple of books by men. So what you do is you actually take the titles, and you can do it with just the titles, or you can do it with the author's names as well, or any blurb that might be on the title. So on Black Swan Green I can see the Daily Mail has written, David Mitchell is dizzyingly, dazzlingly good, so you might want to use those words. And you can use the titles on the side of on the spines of the books, either as maybe a prompt for your own short stories, or actually as poetry. So I have written a poem based on these few books, and I've titled the poem Alan's Dance. So one of the books was by Alan Bennett. So this is Alan's Dance. Alan's black swan pirouette dizzied the sleek songbirds basking on the baked paths as he swayed through the untold reaches of sunbeams, heel-toe on the turns. Roots skipped and tripped, filling his head with the long, long life of trees, planting branches in his lungs. The green watched his dance. Unnumbered fragments of verdigris stopped in motion, opening inklings of doorways to another story. So we have, in the first verse, we have Alan. In the second verse, or in the first line, we have Black Swan from the Black Swan Green by David Mitchell. And then in the third verse, we have Untold Reaches, so that's from Untold Stories on the Alan Bennett spine. And then on the third verse, we have, I could have broken this title up actually, but I chose not to. We have The Long, Long Life of Trees. And then the fourth verse I chose to say The Green, so that's again from Black Swan Green. And what do we have? And yeah, and then trying to figure out where all these words are. And then in the final verse we have Inklings, which is from the Humphrey Carpenter book, and Inklings of Doorways to another story. So Doorways is by Becky Perriman, and we have Untold Stories. So I took a little bit of a liberty with the Alan Bennett book. So words from all of those have come into this poem, and I've ended up with a poem about a man dancing down a path into some woods, and he's spinning around and around, and he's thinking about the ancient trees, and it's about time standing still or starting again and opening things up to another story. So yeah, and all of that came just from the spines of the books. And it might be, even if you have kind of books, you might have the highway code, you might have the A to Z, but actually those things could be really interesting. So I think of the highway code, and you could think of mirror signal manoeuvre, or you could think of what is the highway code? And the highway code sounds a bit like something in the 18th century, where what's the right or the wrong way to behave on the highway, and highwaymen, and the A to Z, from the beginning to the end of things, and all the place names that are in between in the A to Z, from Aberdeen to Zennor, kind of all these places around the UK. You could map it out in the A to Z and talk about a lot of different things in a short story or in a poem that are due to that. You could even cook books, like so Delia Smith's How to Cook. You could start off a poem or a short story saying, how to cook. How am I going to cook? Why do you cook? Maybe it isn't how, maybe it's why do I cook? When do I cook? What do I cook? And kind of you can start off ideas for other things just from a title, just from a tiny little prompt. So I hope this has been interesting, not too rambly, and I'd really love to see any poems or short stories that you're inspired to write just by the spines of your books. So all the very best. I look forward to seeing you next week, and until then, stay safe. Thank you very much. Goodbye.